I'm Mike DeLuca. Welcome to this rare in-the-trenches look at the craft of screenwriting. Today I'm sitting with Paul Haggis, writer, director, producer, whose screenplay for $1 Million Baby was nominated for an Oscar. Paul's also the co-writer and director and producer of the indie breakout hit Crash. Thank you, Paul, for being with us.
Oh, thanks very much for having me.
Is it true you used to move furniture for a living?
That's how I started, yes. When I moved down here, my dad actually was the one who recommended I come to Hollywood. I was working in construction with him in the summertime and working in theater in the wintertime. And he was actually producing some of the plays. And yeah, I think I wrote 2 of the worst pieces of theater ever to be produced in Canada. And I was driving down the road with him one day and going to a job. And he said, construction, you're no damn good at it, are you? And I said, no, I'm really not. He said, why don't you go to Hollywood?
Had you thought about taking screenwriting seriously before your dad suggested it?
I think I was in 5th grade. I turned in a composition. And my teacher said, you're good at that. And that was it. I wanted to be a writer from that on.
That put the bug?
Yeah, and I wrote plays and bad screenplays and bad everything, but really loved it.
When did you first feel like you had what it took to be a screenwriter?
When I was about 40, I think, yeah, after earning a very good living as a very bad writer for many years.
Oh, hardly.
Oh, no, really.
Right.
I earned a very good living as a bad writer.
What were some of the shows that you worked on?
Diff'rent Strokes.
Diff'rent Strokes.
Facts of Life, One Day at a Time, worked my way up in television. I'd written some screenplays on spec and tried to sell them. And they were, I think what we call in the business, quite bad. And so it's a technical term we use as writers.
Right. How many screenplays do you think you'd written before your first produced credit?
I think I'd written 4 or 5.
Do you think it's a necessary evil that you have to write a certain amount of bad screenplays to get to a place where you're writing nothing but good screenplays?
Oh, yeah, because you have to write in order to write.
Right.
You don't have to get any good at it, you just have to write and write and write.
How important is discipline to your work habits?
I know I have to write every day, or not every day, 5 days a week, or as much as I can. When I start to write, I give myself a goal of 5 pages a day, and I don't stop until I get that done, whether it's taking me 2 hours or 12. Sometimes if I get rolling, then I can write more. I can write 10 pages.
But that's your minimum?
Yes, my minimum is 5 pages.
And you find that kind of routine helps you get through?
Yeah. Every scene you come to, you know that the last scene was easy to write, but this scene is impossible.
Right.
And you get through that, and you see the next one, and you go, well, that one was easy to write, but this one's impossible.
Right.
Every single scene is usually like that.
Right. The new one is the impossible one.
Always impossible. And then the characters start talking to you.
In your life, in your process, where do you find the most inspiration? Like, what really inspires you to sit down and start thinking of stories?
You know, it's odd places. A notion will get in my head. I've been thinking of something for the last year that I want to write about. And I just, whenever I get around somebody who knows something about that, I'll just pick their brain and talk. And so I'm interested in so many things, but as long as, and so many genres as well, as long as at the center there's some great human dilemma, some question I do not have the answer for, and something that scares me.
Right.
If I'm really comfortable with a project, I just don't want to do it. It's of no interest to me. Right. It's only if I'm pretty sure that I can actually fail at this, do I want to attempt it.
Is there a point when you're writing a spec screenplay where you've hit the point of no return mark, where you know it's going to be good and it's worth completing? And have you ever bailed on one where you thought? Bail
on them all the time. Right. Yeah. Especially in the story stage.
Do you feel an education in screenwriting from a formal institution is necessary to succeed in the business?
Well, it didn't, I didn't need one, and it just took me a lot longer.
There was no substitute for actual working experience.
No, it wasn't until 30-something, I think, that I actually figured out how to write, and figured out what I should be doing as a writer, not how to write. And I turned in my first script, and they just finished shooting the pilot, and they said, really, really interesting script, Paul. What's it about? And I said, well, it's about this clever plot turn, it's about this piece of dialogue and this funny thing here. And they, yeah, we see that. But what does it mean to you? Where does it come from within you? And I said, it's supposed to do that? And it just shook me up, and I went back and I rewrote, and from that point to now, I've sort of tried it took a long, long time to sink into what passes for my psyche.
How big a factor does commerciality play into your line of thought, or if at all?
None. When I decided to leave television,
Did you leave without a net? Like, did you have the feature set up already?
No, I had nothing. No, I went home, and we just finished building a new house, And television, they pay you just a shitload of money.
Right.
And we're very grateful to take it. And I'd finished this television show, and it wasn't making me happy, what I was doing. It was sort of feeding my soul. And so I went home and talked to my wife. And she'd been bugging me to write this movie, Crash, for a while. I'd come up with the idea a year before.
What's the genesis of the idea?
It was many jumping off points, but one, I was carjacked in 1991. And these writers, we don't react like human beings react. You know, rather than rage or anger, I became curious about who these two kids were who stuck guns in my face. I never intended to write about them, but 10 years later I woke up in the middle of the night and I just, damn, and I hate getting ideas in the middle of the night. So this time I woke up and wrote it down and then started asking myself who they bumped into, because I've always been curious about the interaction of strangers and how we affect each other. And so I asked myself who they bumped into, and that was easy. That was myself and my wife. So I fictionalized us and took us home.
Right.
Asked myself what I did, and I said, well, we changed the locks at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I like asking myself difficult questions. I don't think writers should write about answers. I think we should write about questions. And the question I asked myself was, what if that person had come to change the locks at 2 o'clock? What if he had been Hispanic, young, buzzed hair, what looked in my ignorance to be gang tattoos, baggy pants? Would I have felt safe? And I said, no, I don't think I would have. Ooh, that's really dark territory. I have to write about this. So I brought him in, and then he had one line in my outline, and I said, well, he's just heard these horrible things that Sandra Bullock's character would say. I wonder what happens to him. So I followed him, and I just kept following the characters. So I woke up, so 10 o'clock in the morning, I had this entire sort of 30-page outline done.
Well, what's great about the film, too, is it manages to find its way back to what we can all relate to about what we want in our own lives. You know, whether it's Matt Dillon dealing with his father, you know, we've all felt put upon at a certain point by responsibilities or things that we wish we weren't.
Yeah, Matt's character came from a piece of hate mail I received. There was an interracial couple that week on the show, and someone wrote in to say, why is it in television that it's always the white people who are the villains and the black people who are the victims? Let me tell you a story about my father. And he went on in this letter to tell me the story that Matt Dillon tells about his father. When
you approach the writing of a scene like that, or any scene, do you come at it from what's the plot of this scene, or what's the themes I'm dealing with?
I never wanted to make a statement about race.
Right.
We were just following these characters around, and they started talking about this. Usually the characters are where I start, and then just continue asking myself, what's the worst thing that can happen to this character?
How did you approach writing about experiences or cultures that you had no firsthand knowledge of?
Well, it's actually quite simple. Right. If you know the given circumstances of a person's life, but you have to know the specific given circumstances, then you just put yourself in that person's place and don't judge them. What I love writing about is the contradictions that we all embody as human beings. I realized if right after 30-something, sometime after that, I realized if I was this screwed up, maybe other people were too. Right. If I could embody these contradictions, maybe others could, and so I started writing about them.
Did you ever have a broken heart? Did you ever go through periods where you were totally dispirited and thought, well, this isn't working out for me?
Failure, and success, I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as you keep doing what you love to do.
Right.
And that will carry you through. And
right.
If you die having not succeeded at what you want to do, but having followed your dream, I think you're a success. From the very beginning, I knew that if something didn't sell, it was my fault. It wasn't anyone else's. Right. And so I never blamed my agent, never blamed my manager, things like this. I didn't beat myself up for it.
Right.
I didn't say, my God, you'll never be able to write. So you can't write right now.
Right.
So maybe next week you'll be able to write, and maybe you'll get better.
Is there one piece of wisdom, that you feel, as far as screenwriting goes, that cannot be repeated enough?
Always write from your gut. Right. No matter what the thing is, no matter what the project is, always believe that question you're asking yourself is worth answering or worth trying to answer, and then just continue to explore that.